right, we should be live. All right, so welcome to the stream. Today we're going to be making a couple of things. I've got chicken enchiladas, and we're going to be making enchilada sauce from scratch um, because it's one of those things that is just kind of fun to do, I assume. I've never done it. So today will be a first. First time making this recipe, first time making uh, enchilada sauce from scratch. But before we get started with the enchilada sauce, because we're making chicken enchiladas, we've got to make sure that we've got chicken. So in order to do that, I'm going to utilize the Instant Pot because, all hail the Instant Pot. It is basically perfect at what it does, which is to cook things very quickly. And why would you not want to have things cooked very quickly? So for this, and because I know that I'll be able to use some chicken breasts later if I uh, make a little bit of extra. The recipe technically calls for 2 cups of chicken, shredded chicken, but we're actually going to do 2 full breasts. Oh, I thought this one was open. I guess that it's not open. Maybe it was the other one that was open. Yes, it was the other one that was open. So I've got my huge bag of frozen chicken breasts here. And we're going to go ahead and pop a couple of those into the Instant Pot. I'm going to go for a slightly bigger one, I think. All right. So that's 2 pounds, or two full chicken breasts, which we're sticking here into the Instant Pot. If I can get this bag closed, I'll put it away, and then we can put in some water and set these to cook. And we're starting it now because with the Instant Pot, it'll take it about 20 or 20-ish minutes to really come up to pressure and to cook, and then to come back down from pressure. Because for chicken breasts, we really only need them to be we only really need to have them uh, be shredded. So we aren't doing anything particularly fancy with them. So we're just going to put in our water here. And I'm going to actually add some salt to that water as well, because salt is fantastic. That will help to add a little bit of seasoning. So I've got my box of salt here, which I've actually put a fairly serious dent in. We're just going to go ahead and salt that water. All right. So with that in, I'm going to pop this lid on. We're going to set this to pressure cook for, what's the recommended for chicken? I can never remember. I think it's actually only about 8 minutes. Frozen chicken breast, Instant Pot. Google is always your friend. 10 to 12 minutes. So we're going to go for 11 minutes because we want it to be just a little bit tender and falling straight off of the, or falling apart. So we're going to set this to 11 minutes on high pressure. No delay, and we're not going to bother keeping this on the keep warm setting. We're going to have this come straight out, have a big release of steam, and then we'll be using it immediately. So we're going to go ahead and tell that to start. Meanwhile, let's go back over to the cutting board and get started with our sauce, because the enchilada sauce is going to take a few minutes, and we're going to use that time to where the chicken breasts are going to take a few minutes. We're going to use that time on the enchilada sauce. Just one of those days where I can't talk. All right, so the first thing that we're going to need for this are these chilies that I got this recipe off of Serious Eats. They tend to use uh, fancy ingredients to get everything to taste just right, and they recommend using four medium guajillo chilies. I am probably mispronouncing that horribly, but um, we're going to take about four of them, so there'll be about an ounce overall. I'm going to go preheat the oven up to 350. Just make sure there's nothing in it. All right, so the oven is preheating to 350 degrees. So we're going to be placing a few of these chilies. It says four of the medium ones. We might do five. I like a little bit of a spicy sauce. Um, and we're going to heat it until they're puffed up and aromatic, which it says is going to be about 3 to 5 minutes before removing it, cooling it, and then stemming and seeding the chilies and then tearing it into pieces. And then after that, we're going to put them into a blender, along with the things that we'll prepare while the chilies are in the oven. So let me grab a rimless baking sheet here. Alrighty. I'm just going to say maybe, so that's four, and it says it should be about an ounce. So let's get the scale out and just see how much that weighs. So that's about half an ounce. So we're actually going to need a few more just to get to what they recommended. That's 3/4 of an ounce. That's an ounce, and since, like I said, I do prefer things to be just a little bit spicy, we're going to go with that, and that's 1.15 ounces. So I'm going to go ahead and probably grab thinking probably a Ziploc bag for those. We'll probably want to keep those out of the air. Just kind of have that feeling. Let's see if this bag's going to be big enough. Yeah, that should probably be fine. If you clean up as you go along, there's never a mess at the end. I'm going to fold this up and make sure that that goes in there as well, just so I don't forget what these are. It won't help. I'll put these away and be looking for more chilies later, and I won't be able to find them. All right, but at least I will have tried. So we have our chilies here. We have our scale put away. We're just going to lay these chilies out like so. And I'm using a rimless baking sheet. I don't think it actually says either way. Yeah, it just says on a baking sheet. I'm using a rimless one in this case, although I am a little concerned about them possibly rolling off. Because a rimmed baking sheet, the hot air can't go over it takes longer to go over and heat up the tops. And we're looking to get a very even heat on all of this, as opposed to, potentially burning the bottoms. So the rimless allows the hotter air to flow in and around it more easily and more quickly. Same thing with cookies. Cookies, if you want to have a chewier bottom, you should probably use a rimless baking sheet so that the air can hit the tops at the same time that the bottoms are cooking, and everything will come out at about the same time. Just so you know. All right, I'm going to stick these in, and we'll get started prepping our next ingredients. And I took the liberty of moving my oven rack to the very top, so it's right underneath that top burner, which just seemed like yeah, I will do my best to not accidentally touch. Ah! No, I always make sure I wash my hands. These are not particularly spicy chilies. They have more of a smoky flavor, so I should be pretty okay. Usually when I start handling stuff that is spicy, where I'm concerned I'll touch my face afterwards, I'll make sure that I wear gloves. That's really a great way to make sure you don't accidentally touch your face, because if you're wearing gloves, you've got something physically pressing against your hands, and it's just a reminder. All right, so we're going to get started with the garlic because it says we're going to need to have 2 medium cloves of garlic. I'm just taking a note of the time here because it says the chilies should take about 3 to 5 minutes. And since the oven hasn't fully preheated, it will probably take a little bit longer than that. But I don't know how much longer than that. So probably about 7:15 my time is when I'll check on them and see if they're about ready to come out. We shall see. All right, just getting the little bit of paper off these. I know that technically you can cut them and peel them after the paper comes straight off, or crush them rather. But I always feel like I miss a little bit, and this kind of lets me inspect them at the same time, make sure there's no bumps or bruises, and everything comes off if there's something that doesn't look quite right. This particular clove has a few things right against the surface that they are rubbing off, but seems particularly sticky. Not really quite sure why. And I'm doing a little bit extra since it says 2 medium cloves. I would say that 2 of these here are small cloves. Um, so I think that altogether this will be about 3 medium cloves. And as I've said previously, you can never have too much garlic because more garlic is always better. Up until, it's not. But for most of it, more garlic is always better. All right there, and then I'm going to wash my hands here because I did get a little bit of garlic underneath my fingernails. Not that it's a big deal or anything, but while we're on the subject of me not touching anything with my hands, then putting it in my face. Ooh, all right, those chilies actually are ready. I could smell them as I walked over to the sink, so I am pulling those out now. All righty. Yeah, these are looking pretty good. A little puffed up. Smell pretty good too. Ooh, hot. Hot, hot, hot. All right, what do I need to have the oven on later? Just 350, cool, perfect. All right, I'm gonna set these right here off on the side of my cutting board so that they can cool. Because until they cool, I can't touch them. I mean, I can, it's just not gonna be very comfortable. We're gonna go ahead and just quickly, it says just peel them. All right, cool, because I don't need to get out my knife. I'll do that. All right, so 2 medium cloves garlic peeled, 1 can of fire roasted diced tomatoes. They specifically recommend the Muir Glen, which is what I happen to have here. So that's a lucky coincidence. That says a bit of cumin, a bit of black pepper, cumin. And I've got some black pepper. Have I had the chance to have black garlic? I do not think I have. Possibly, but not that I really remember. So it sounds like it's time for me to look it up and to try it. All right. So we're gonna need to have the chilies, the garlic, the tomatoes, the cumin, and the black pepper. Cool. So I've got everything that I need for the blender bit. So let's start working on these chilies. And here I can use my knife. Ooh, those seeds come straight out. Those smell really good. seeds come straight out of these because they've been dried. So I'm just going to kind of tap these. I think that this one's a little curved. I can hear there's another one in there. All right, I think that got it. You might be wondering why I'm doing this right next to where I just have my garlic and everything if I'm trying to make sure that I don't have any seeds in there. And that's because I didn't think about that when I started it, a whole minute ago. And at this point, I'm just doubling down on my mistake. I'm going to go ahead and cut that off. This is another one of those where I can feel that there's more in there. But I guess I'll be tearing these into pieces anyway, so not exactly missing much by doing that now. Now is the time that I really wouldn't want to touch my face after, because it's usually the seeds that are the spiciest bits. Alright, I'm going to grab what I'm going to be putting all these into so that I can kind of just drop them straight in. I've got to be blending all of this together. It's made in Taiwan and tastes like a fruitier version with Worcester sauce or something. I can never remember how to pronounce that. It's either Worcester or Worcester. I suspect it's the latter, but hey, what do I know? That's a New England and, Britain thing. I don't have to know how to spell that or pronounce it. Alright, so we're just going to tear these chilies into pieces, and we're dropping them into a glass container that I have lying around so that we're going to be ready to blend them up in a minute. I got a immersion blender this last week, and I'm kind of excited to use it. So this says, put it in the bowl of a blender, and yeah, I could do it that way. Or I could, live dangerously and try something new, which sounds way more exciting. Just gonna make sure I get most of those chilies, or most of those seeds. Tear that up. I assume there's a minimum size that's needed for the blender to work effectively. Also, now that I'm starting to put stuff in here, I sort of hope that I might need to get a slightly bigger container here. That might be the real reason that they said to use a blender, because usually blenders have a slightly larger bowl. I'm going to start cleaning those up a little bit. Worcestershire, all right. So basically neither of my guesses were correct. Oh well. I've heard a few different people pronounce it different ways, so I've always been confused. It's entirely possible they're just referring to other towns. And it's entirely possible that the sauce is not pronounced like the town. I'm just going to go ahead and drop this garlic in. It's going to end up getting damaged if I don't. These things have a great odor. They smell kind of smoky and spicy in a very pleasant way. So while I haven't tried this before, I am holding out hope that it's going to be pretty good. Oops, there are a couple seeds in that one. Oh well, I did say I wanted it a little bit spicy. All right. Got those in there. Already got the garlic in there. Clean up my cutting board. Dispose of those. Some of the stuff that I'm doing later, probably wouldn't want to get any of these seeds in it. All right. Looks like the chicken's coming along as well, so that's good. Okay. We're going to need to do a full can of diced tomatoes. So I'll need my trusty can opener. We're going to be pureeing this until it is as smooth as possible. How smooth is as smooth as possible, really? Is it mostly smooth? Is it till it runs like water? Is it some mixture of the two? Is it both at the same time? We'll give this a shot with the immersion blender, but I've got a feeling I might need to swap to something bigger. I have the actual blender on standby if it turns out we need it. All right, 1/4 teaspoon of cumin. Should be about that much. Then, ooh, that smells good. Then a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. Should be about that. Okay, we're going to take all this over here. I'm going to go check my remote feed. I no longer need to deal with the delay in seeing what's going on in terms of waiting until you guys see it, but I still have, let's lower this down and try getting more of a side angle at it. Eh? I feel like that might be a little bit more interesting. Yeah, that's a bit better. All right. I've got my brand new immersion blender here. Hopefully it continues to work after today. And hopefully I don't make a huge mess. But hey, if I do, it should be interesting, right? Ooh, it makes a nice bubbling sound. And then we're just going to get started with turning it on. Ooh! Alright, that's actually pretty fun. Is it still spinning? I can't tell. I don't think it is. I may have broken it already. Let's see here. That bit's still working. That bit's still working. I'm just not getting any suction. Oh, there it goes. Oof. Okay, this thing's actually pretty fun. I think that's getting approximately as smooth as it's going to get. As evidenced by these spatters. Okay, this thing's a lot of fun. I think I like this thing. Yes, the immersion blender does go burr. All right. Yeah, that made a pretty decent amount. I could probably get a little bit smoother, right? Right? Oh, it's got power settings. Oh, okay. Now this is a lot of fun. Okay. All right. Doing this in something with such thin glass walls is probably a bad idea. It is not designed for it. All right. Well, that was exciting and fun. Let me figure out how I can wash my hands without soaking the blender. I'm going to pop this bit off. Set that aside. Put the main body there and unplug it so it doesn't continue running. Ooh. All right, that was pretty fun. I feel like I've got some actual like enchilada sauce now. Let's go take a look and see what the next steps are. If I can, there we go. Alrighty. I think I like that thing. That's probably recent my favorite recent kitchen purchase. Well, okay, I also got a new food processor, so I probably shouldn't say that yet because I haven't tried the food processor. It's still in the it's actually in the dishwasher right now. But the immersion blender is definitely going to be right up there. Let's see here. All right. We've got pureed as smooth as possible. Then we're going to be, oh, we're actually going to be back over there after all. We're going to be heating oil in a large saucepan over medium-high heat until shimmering. And then we're going to be pressing this through a sieve. Try to get to the consistency of tomato paste. Okay, that's a lot. All right, it says a large saucepan. I'll be adding an extra couple cups of chicken broth. So I am thinking that for this, well, we're going to move the Instant Pot for one, so I can put the camera there. For this, I think that this is going to call for either the Dutch oven, which is fantastic when you're making stuff like this, and let me reposition this. One day I will have like a proper camera setup, but today is not that day. Alright, this is cool enough that I can touch it now, and I'll set that aside to clean later. So I can use either my all-clad, which the lid needs a cleaning, but that could probably be the best. That'll help it simmer the best. So that's what we're going to do. Hey, the Instant Pot's done. Sweet. We're going to put it back here on this back burner. Not because we want to ignore it. Let me see if I can get a light going on this, because that could be pretty nice if I could have not white balance. Nope, okay. Doesn't want to let me turn on a light. So I blame my camera for not having any. If there are any problems watching this, I blame my camera. A good craftsman always blames his tools, right? I think that's the term. Okay, so we're going to take a tablespoon or so of olive oil. We're going to get this nice and hot. Which burner is my favorite? Honestly, it's normally the front right one. This is actually a pretty consistent burner. Then I've got the one over here that I have the lid on right now. I have a newfound appreciation for that one after the other day. I was making stir-fried rice, so egg stir-fried rice, which apparently is the popular thing right now. I guess there's a viral video or something. And The whole thing with stir-fried rice is you have to get it really, really, really hot, really fast. That's how you get the right texture and the right taste. And it turns out this burner over here gets really, really, really hot, really, really, really fast. And so while it's not a gas burner, which is kind of what I would prefer, it actually it does a pretty solid job on it with my wok. It's not perfect, but it's better than any of the other burners. So after those two, probably the back right one, because that's where I can, fit my large pan here easily. Um, and then because there's four burners and one of them has to come in last, the rear left one, just because I never use it. The ones on the left-hand side have a very poor temperature control, so they're either kind of on or off. So there's not much need for me to use the back left one. If I need one that'll be just on or off, it'll usually be one of the others. I'm not normally cooking stuff on all four burners at once. I'd probably honestly be good with just like two burners most of the time. Maybe three. That's probably way more of an answer than anyone cared about, but that's my answer and I'm sticking to it. Alrighty. So we've got our fine mesh sieve. This might need just a little bit of oil. It said 1 tablespoon, but I don't think that they were thinking that someone would have as large of a pan as this, and I would like to make sure that nothing burns. Just a splash. Alrighty. Yeah, that looks more reasonable. That's feeling just about the right temperature. So we're going to grab a spoon. We are going to start pouring this through. Do I have to do this because it's, this smooth already? Probably not. Especially since we're really just going to be thickening it down again. But if there are any big chunks in there or any seeds that I missed, it would be good to get them. I always forget you're supposed to do like kind of small amounts through a sieve. Because it's hard to press any more than that. I know there's a trick to it, but I've never really bothered to learn it. There's tricks to a lot of things that I've just never really bothered to learn. You know what, I'm making the executive decision that this is probably going to be just fine the way it is, and I don't need to worry about any sieves. If I had made that decision a couple minutes earlier, I wouldn't have had to clean it, but it is what it is, and I will survive. Boy, there's a lot that kind of got caught there, isn't there? I've always thought of enchilada sauce as being a little thicker anyway. It's not runny as water. Maybe if I'd actually, finished with a full blender, like a Vitamix or a Blendtec or something, maybe that would have worked, but... Alright, I'll set that aside to regretfully clean later. Just gonna make sure we got everything in here. We're gonna be cook sauce, stirring constantly. Oh, over medium-high heat, okay. Stirring constantly until it has thickened. Well, I think I can probably do that. I like it when recipes, assume that I can do things. Well, except for, if I can't do them, I feel like I've maybe somehow disappointed the person that wrote the recipe. Rubber scraper in a small batch. Yeah, see, that's what I should have done, but yeah. That sounds like work, and it's a Wednesday, and I'm hungry. So, I'll let you decide what I'm likely to do there. This burner does run a little bit cool, so I'm going to turn it up just a little bit above what it suggests. And we're going to get this up to... Hey, we're just trying to get it up to... Doesn't even say simmer. Until later. Interesting. Okay. So, while that heats up, I'm going to grab the chicken broth that we're going to be needing. It says chicken broth. I'm actually using chicken stock. Not really a huge difference there. Although I think chicken stock has a slightly richer flavor. But hey, in many cases, that's exactly what you want. Whoever said I want my food to be less flavorful, right? And we're just going to stir this while I am going to be very impatient. Till thicken to a consistency of tomato paste. Tomato paste is pretty thick. Kind of wondering how much they're planning on actually having this go down by. It sounds like a lot, but we will see. I mean, if I grab some tomato paste and I pour it out, I mean, I usually expect it to, not exactly just fill back in like that. So we've got a little ways to go. It is leaving a trail. Right, I'm going to let that heat up. Probably bubble a little bit. I'm going to look ahead and see what's going to be up next. We're going to need to have this enchilada sauce. And it uses canned enchilada sauce. So I could have skipped all of this by just getting a can of enchilada sauce, but this is more fun. We're going to need 4 ounces of cream cheese. I really hope I've still got some cream cheese left. Yes, I do. That's good. Would have been very annoying if I had to do this without it. Very little would really change, but it would still be annoying. Alright, 1.5 cups of salsa. So in addition to the enchilada sauce, they do this person recommends some salsa, which, fair enough, I like salsa. So salsa seems like a good idea to me. So for this, I'm going to be using the Trader Joe's chunky salsa because it's a pretty good salsa to cook with. I don't really know what to say about it other than that. It's inexpensive. There's a lot of it. Tastes pretty good. Cooks pretty well. Usually, if I'm just having chips with salsa, I will prefer I'll prefer one of the other Trader Joe's salsas, like their tomatillo or their salsa authentica, but which are a little bit smoother. But their chunky salsa is great for stuff like this where you want chunks of stuff. 2 cups of cubed cooked chicken. That's in there. I can probably release this pressure from it now. All right, so that pressure is releasing. A can of rinsed pinto beans. Got a can here. Got a can opener here. Sounds like we're getting somewhere. And I think I'll be able to use that sieve after all. Not for the way that I was originally going to do it, but if I can just get it rinsed out, that would be perfect to rinse those pinto beans in. Then I don't have to wash yet another thing later. Yep, cool. That actually did come out pretty well. We're not trying to push it through, but rather against. It works well. Yep. Give this a stir. I like all that steam coming off of it. That looks pretty nice. Apparently there's something that you can do. Apparently so in beans, they're packaged in, shoot, I can't remember the name of it, but apparently it's a fantastic replacement for egg whites. And you can whip it up and make meringues with it. And it tastes very good. I have not tried that. I'm not going to be trying it tonight, but something for me to try later. But for now, we're just going to get these dumped out and rinsed while we wait for the enchilada sauce to finish. Because you know the saying, a watch pot never boils. So if everyone's watching the pot, you'll never get done. So you guys can watch the pot, and I'll look away from the pot to make sure it actually does what it's supposed to do. And then that way we don't, destroy thermodynamics and heat transfers and all that stuff. There's a lot of physical laws that are broken if people, watch pots while they boil. It's the sort of thing that the physics majors don't want you to know that because they want to be able to break thermodynamics whenever they need to, but secretly the truth. All right, so we've got our rinsed pinto beans. Chickpeas are your favorite because of the more mild taste. All right, that's good to know. I'll have to try it. Just don't remember the name of it. When I see the name, I'm going to be like, oh yeah, that's it, of course. But I don't remember it right now. All right, we're also going to need it says a can of diced green chilies. Well, it says chopped green chilies, but chopped and chopped and diced are basically the same. Just one of them slightly more. So I'll set that over there. Keep stirring this around. Admire the beautiful, picturesque steam coming off of it. Wonder where all of that water is coming from. It's probably, I must have set the pinto beans down for a second after I'd rinsed them. It's the only place that could come from. All right. Chopped green chilies. This one calls for flour tortillas. I'm not doing flour tortillas. I'm doing corn tortillas because if you're doing enchiladas, you got to do it with corn tortillas. Eventually, I'll get around to making my own corn tortillas, but again, today is not that day. It's a weeknight. It's Wednesday. This is supposed to be, a little bit of fun cooking time, and that's what we're doing. So, we are going to get this ready. We aren't putting it in yet. But we're going to be getting ready to get our corn tortillas steamed so that they are malleable and won't fall apart as soon as we start trying to use them. Get a paper towel over here all damp. Alrighty. Damp paper towel. Just going grab a stack out of here. Small stack to start with. We're already crumbling a little. I think they came that way. It wasn't me. There. There. It's 3. That's 4. That's 5. That one's a little bit munched. Gonna grab another paper towel. I might be going slightly overboard with the paper towels, but hopefully these will just be very soft and very malleable when we need to actually start filling them. If they crack, they crack, but if we can prevent them from cracking until a little bit later, it just makes everything easier. Alrighty. So we're at what, 5? So this should be 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. That should be a decent number. So we'll get this sealed up, and I'll still have some for later if I need to make more. I've got a feeling I'm going to have plenty of filling, and so the only thing that will be limiting me from having more later will just be the cooking time, which isn't too bad. It's about 20 minutes. All right. Gonna set that up in there and cover it, but we aren't starting it quite yet because I want to make sure I've got my other stuff ready to go first. So I don't want those to cool down. All right, this is actually starting to look pretty thick there. It's probably a thin tomato paste right now, but that's probably perfectly fine. As I pull my spatula through, it's closing up very slowly. So I feel like that's probably approximately the correct amount. So let's grab our 2 cups of chicken stock. I do occasionally measure things with measuring cups. Alrighty. So we've got our chicken stock here. I'm going to put the rest of it back into the refrigerator. Yeah, I think that's definitely where it needs to be. That's looking like maybe a slightly thinned out tomato paste, but that's looking about right. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and I think after I put this in, we've got to bring it up to a boil. Is that right? Yes. So we'll be bringing it to a boil, then we're going to be reducing heat and simmering for 10 minutes. While we do that, we'll work on the rest of the other things that we'll have tonight. So there goes the chicken stock. Get this all nicely mixed together. And that is looking pretty good. And it's smelling pretty good too. Scrape down the sides, make sure there's nothing orphaned up there. that we'll miss later. This is surprisingly easy. I mean, it takes a little bit of time, but like all of the steps in here have been pretty straightforward. It's just a lot of waiting. All right. All right, so this is going to come up to a simmer. All right, we're going to bring it up to a boil, sorry. Let's turn the heat up a little bit to make sure it gets there a little bit faster. And let's move on to our chicken enchiladas, which is actually going to have us start with a saucepan as well. So it says a large saucepan because we're going to have several cups. Hmm. Okay. I'm thinking what we might want to do here is I will use the smaller burner here in front. Push this back a little bit. This is going to continue coming up to a boil and a simmer. We're going to try and time everything so it all comes out about the right time. And I'm going to use my Dutch oven because I like my Dutch oven. And it's nice to have something that's heavy and will stay hot. And even though cast iron does heat up inconsistently at the start of when you begin cooking, it heats up very unevenly. But after a moment or two, or after a couple minutes, it evens out and then it retains that heat really, really well, which is what we're going to want for this. Um, Something like these all-clads with their stainless steel and aluminum uh, layers, they're going to heat up really fast and really evenly, but they don't have that same thermal mass to keep it hot. So we are going to go with the cast iron for this next bit. Okay, so we've got our enchilada sauce there. Um, but first we're going to be starting off with cream cheese and salsa. So I'm going to grab 4 ounces of cream cheese, which is, let's see, this is half a pack, so that's 4 ounces. Hey, how about that? It says it wants it to be cubed. So, it doesn't say how many cubes. I think that just a couple cubes would be okay. Probably have to be in a few more cubes than that. These are really more like rectangles. Whenever anyone's like, oh yes, you need to make sure that like it's cubed, I'm always like, best I can do is a lot of rectangles. So you can get way more rectangles out of something than you can cubes. Well, depending how precise you want to be. There we go. I think in this case they're really just after surface area, in which case this should be just fine. Just going to kind of break apart a few of these a little bit more. Now that they're no longer in my hand, I don't need to be quite as careful with the knife. Cutting my hand off on camera would be something, but I think my health insurance would probably say that's a pre-existing condition and can't fix stupid. Just a feeling. All right, so we've got that there. So that's going to start warming up. And we're going to do that with, let's see, 1.5 cups of salsa. So I'm going to rinse out my chicken broth cup again. I'm going to grab my salsa here. I'm going to really hope that I can open this and not... There it goes. Boy, that was on tight. And we're going to hope that there's 1.5 cups in here. Hey, look at that. There's just about exactly 1.5 cups. clearly whoever at Trader Joe's put this together makes makes this enchilada recipe. Kind of get that turned down to bound to medium heat now that we've got the heat through the cast iron. I always run it on medium high to get started. And we're just going to do this for a minute or two while everything kind of, all these flavors get to know each other a little bit. I think that's Babish's line. Andrew Ray. Well, look at that. Just stealing everyone else's stuff. I'll have to come up with a different catchphrase. While we acquaint everything with each other. Is that any better? Oh no, that's really any better. Bring to a boil, simmer for 10 minutes, stirring occasionally. Season with salt and sugar to taste. Okay. This might still be a little bit too warm. We're not supposed to be boiling the salsa, although I gotta tell you, all the spices and everything together does make it smell pretty good. Alright, while it does that, just behind the camera, because there's not really a great way to show everything all at once, I'm opening up the Instant Pot. The chicken looks fabulous. Yes, while all the flavors make friends. There we go. That's a good one. While all the flavors make friends. I like that. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and shred this chicken here. Boy, that steam is really, really hot. Oof. And technically, the recipe says that I'm supposed to have it be cubed, but you know what? That sounds like a lot more work than just getting in there with a couple of forks and shredding it. And frankly, I've always been a fan of shredded enchiladas. Shredded chicken enchiladas, a little bit more anyway. It's the reason that for most of these recipes I'm like, you know, this is kind of what I'm following. It's not exactly what I'm following. I'm following it, but I'm making some judgments of my own along the way. And really, not doing that with a recipe is doing both yourself and the recipe a disservice. Because in the end, the only person that you're trying to, you know, have it work for is you. So customizing the recipe so that it does work for you is really the only way that you can go about it. If it tastes good to you, it was successful. Don't think anyone here has a Michelin star or anything where they're, you know, serving food to 500 people a night. And therefore, the only person that you need to impress with your cooking is you. Now, the downside to that is that you may be your own worst critic. 'Cause I definitely am mine. But if it tastes good, that's the important thing. All right. Got our cream cheese mixing in pretty nicely there. Just making friends with the salsa. We're going to stir this enchilada sauce, which is looking really good. And smelling really good too. So it says, actually I don't even need to have the enchilada sauce in there for a while. It's good to know. It's almost like I planned this. I mean, I did. I just didn't plan it to be that good. And I say that as I spatter myself with uh, enchilada filling, so clearly not that good. But hey, this is why I wear an apron, right? Okay, so we've got all that. We're gonna go ahead and grab our pinto beans, which are rinsed and ready to make more friends. Go ahead and stir those in. That's looking pretty good. We're going to turn up the heat just a little bit because we're going to be adding in something else in a moment that's not hot. We're going to grab the green chilies. It just says 1 can, which is 4 ounces. So, oh, this is a 7-ounce can. I was thinking that was going to be like a ton of green chilies. So we're just going to put in half a can of green chilies. Which seems like a much saner amount of chilies compared to what I was looking at. Don't get me wrong. I thought it would be good, but I was thinking that whoever wrote this recipe was perhaps a little bit nuts. Probably would have put in about half and been like, yeah, I think this is good. Two, about 3 ounces. That should be about 4 ounces. Alright, I'll set that aside to put away. Stir these in. Alrighty. I need to figure out what to make on Sunday. I'm planning on doing another one of these streams on Sunday evening. So I need to sit down and think about that. So if anyone's got any suggestions, leave them in the chat or in the comments, and I may just do it. Alright, so we've got the green chilies, we've got the pinto beans, now we need to get the chicken. It says 2 cups. So let's get 2 cups of chicken over here. Let's see if I can first scoop this chicken out. Which is perhaps a little bit easier said than done. Looks like the 2 chicken breasts is going to be just about right. I was thinking I might have some extra, but doesn't look like I will. Come on. I swear, getting chicken out of this, I should probably have dumped all the water out before I shredded it. But coulda, woulda, shoulda, didn't. Alright, getting this out with just the forks is just going to be nigh impossible, so let me grab a different scoop. And we're going to go with, I think this scoop. That should work pretty nicely. And yeah, that's way better. Because it drains it and it lifts it out at the same time. Yep, there we go. Almost got it all. So close. Come on. Last little bit. Might be very slightly over 2 cups. I don't think that's a problem. I'm thinking I'll probably have extra filling left over, so that'll be good leftovers. Alrighty, it's about 2 cups. Probably could have shredded those down a little bit more, but I think that looks pretty good to me. I think the enchilada sauce is just about done. Ooh, that's a nice red color. I'm going to mute quickly, and I think I'm going to grab a taste of that and see what I need to season it with. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's definitely going to need to have some salt. Could actually have had a little bit more kick to it. I could have probably put in some more chilies. Getting a little bit there on my tongue on the back of it. But definitely going to need to have some salt. The recipe says that it might need sugar, but I don't think it does. I think that a little bit of salt, and I don't know, maybe some more pepper? Could probably have stood to put a little bit more in. Ooh, that's hot. That's pretty tomatoey. What can I do to counteract that tomato a little bit? Not to, get rid of it, but it's just a lot of tomato, Could put a little bit of, I've got some red pepper, some cayenne. I could probably put in some more peppercorn. Maybe a little bit of paprika? Not really sure. I think I'll probably go for a little bit of the red pepper. Not a ton. I don't want to have it suddenly turn into, fire engine hot. But we're just going to go with a little bit here. If you'll pour any out, there we go. I think that will really help. So let's see here. I'll probably keep this simmering for a moment or two longer, which will mess up our timing a little bit, but that's okay. Because I think I want to reduce that down a little bit. It's still a little bit watery. Good, but just a little bit watery. So let's give this a shot. Yep, that's better. That's way better. It's got just a little bit of heat to it. Not like a ton, but just a little bit. Just enough that it kind of lets itself be taken a little bit more seriously. All right, so that'll be pretty good. Let's try tasting this, I think. Let's see how this comes out, because we're gonna need to have, because of course this is only half of it. This is the other half, so we want to make sure that they can complement each other. So let's try a little bit of this. Yeah, that's pretty good. It's not too overpowering. It's got a little bit of extra spice, which will go really well with the enchilada sauce. Um, it's got a little bit more of the tomato and peppery taste, which is kind of what I was after anyway. And that comes from the salsa, I think. It's also got just a little hint of cheese. Oh, speaking of cheese, we should probably shred that cheese. So I'm going to let these both sit on the stove for a moment. And while they do, let's come back over here and get some cheese shredded. Because shredding cheese is, I think, the next step before the last step before we kind of start getting the stuff popped into the oven. Get our box grater. Double check my camera angle. Yeah, it looks fine. I know the whole looking straight down thing's in vogue right now, I think. Right? Right? Right. All right. And so it recommends a cup of shredded Mexican cheese blend, but when have I ever done anything according to the exact instructions? What we're going to do is we're going to use a little bit of sharp cheddar. Not a ton. We're going to use a little bit, and then we're going to get some of our pepper jack and do our own blend there. So we'll get that little bit of extra spice from the pepper jack as well. And everything should complement each other pretty well. So we'll just shred out. Oh, I'm not sure. Maybe a little bit more. That's about a quarter cup there. So it's getting close. That looks like that's about a half cup. All right. So we're going to leave our cheese out because we're going to come back to it in a few minutes. Well, actually, I'll put it away because it might take a little bit longer than I'm expecting. Things usually do. Looks like this stuff is still simmering away. I'm going to turn up the enchilada sauce a little bit more because I do want it to be a little bit thicker. I could force it to be a little bit thicker with some cornstarch. Put a little bit of cornstarch in there and it'll start thickening up pretty fast, but I don't think that we really need that. And what we do need is pepper jack, because pepper jack is awesome. It's all kinds of awesome. Oop. Bottom of the box grater's falling off. Knew I should have been more careful when I put it back on earlier. But gotta have that nice non-stick, or the nice non-skid rather, not non-stick. We do want it to stick. That nice sticky surface. All right, there we go. Let's get this open, which is vacuum packed and therefore very difficult to open. It's okay, we'll just use an expensive chef's knife. Chef's knife instead of going to grab scissors like we really should. It's just like every tool is a hammer. Every knife is actually a pair of scissors. This stuff's way easier to hold and shred than that gigantic block of cheddar. Something to be said for ease of manipulation when it comes to foodstuffs. Alright, I think that should be pretty good. So we should have just around a cup of our own blend of cheddar and pepper jack. Just going to kind of mix this up a little bit, and I'm going to grab a bowl for this to live in for the next couple of minutes before we're ready to finish stuffing our enchiladas. Okay, maybe it's just a little bit over a cup. Over, under, what's the difference? It's all delicious in the end. All right, so we've got that, which means we should be just about ready to get started on getting our enchiladas put together. So I'm going to go ahead and start this microwave to try and get these things warmed up. Let's do this for, it's not going to take that long. Let's try 15 seconds on full power to start with. Open and close door first. All right, cool. I guess it doesn't let you just put stuff in there and then forget about it. That's nice. Okay. So we'll have our tortillas. Let me grab our, where did I put my baking dish? That's where I put my baking dish, in the other room, because that's what makes sense. When you're going to be baking, make sure that all your tools are as far away from your kitchen as possible. So let's just make sure there's no dust in it, because there's nothing worse than a dusty pan, at least when you're about to put stuff into it. Just carelessly throw my hands around near that knife so that everyone can worry about my safety. Promise I am pretty careful with it. And we're just going to make sure this is all dry so that when we put oil on it, it doesn't refuse to stick. And then let's get that oil and spray it on there, I think, right? Greased. Grease, oil, same difference, right? It's all basically the same. All right, man, I'm telling you, I love this baking spray. So much easy. Yes, the cat's over here. She's annoyed that I fed her late earlier. Because of course she is. She wouldn't get annoyed if I fed her early. She's only annoyed if I feed her a couple minutes late. It wasn't even that late. It was only like 5 minutes late. She was acting like I was starving her, and she's a little dramatic. But she's cute. Let's get this cheese put away. We're going to bring the enchilada sauce over. We're going to just put in some on the bottom to start with. Mostly because that's what the recipe recommends, and it seems like a good idea to me. Actually, I think that now that I look at the pot, I'm thinking that maybe taking a bubbling thing of hot liquid and carrying it across an open space in anticipation of carefully scooping out some of it when you reach the other side of the room may not be my finest idea. So we're going to take a much smaller amount out of it, and we're going to put that in using a ladle instead, and without carting it across the room first. Much easier to do the much lighter weight, though still surprisingly heavy, baking dish. And there we go. So that is going to be our base. And I gotta tell you, it looks and smells amazing. I don't know how much of it's really coming through on the camera, but it smells awesome. So we're going to go ahead, add a little bit more salt in here. And I think it's time for us to start actually stuffing these enchiladas. And because I've got a limited amount of space to work with, how are we going to do this? I should actually probably do it over here where we were just a moment ago, before I moved the camera and everything. Yeah, I think that's what we'll do. All right, move the camera over. Get us back to a good angle where you can actually see something, which if I could, boy, who put that screw on? The Hulk? All right, so we've got our recipe. Got a couple of lids that don't need to be here. This is why stuff ends up in the other room. I'm just like, gotta set it somewhere. And we've got our tray. So what we're going to end up doing is we're going to take our corn tortillas. Yeah, that'll be nice and manipulable. Well, actually, that's still, it could go just another couple minutes, a couple seconds. Put it in for another 15 seconds. I'm going to take some of the cheese, not all of the cheese, but a small sprinkling of cheese, and I'm going to mix it in to our concoction here. It's the most pretentious microwave alarm I think I've ever heard. We're going to make sure this small bit of unshredded chicken is more shredded. All right, there we go. Now we've got a little bit of cheese, a little bit extra cheese in there, because of course we still have the cream cheese in there as well. So we'll have that. So what we're going to do, we're just going to get a little bit of this. I'm going to see if I can actually touch this without hurting myself. I don't think I can. So we will proceed with just this piece. We're just going to lay down a line of enchilada filling. But now that I said the word taco, I'm thinking this would probably make great tacos as well. We're just going to kind of wrap it around like that. Get it over here, and I'm thinking I can do like that. Probably going to need to make some more tortillas here in a couple minutes. So we're just going to get that filling in there. Wrap it around. Oops, splitting a little bit there. That's all right. The enchilada sauce will hide all sins. We're just going to kind of repeat this for each of them. Try and get it wrapped around. And flip it into place so that it stays. Might be slightly overfilling these, but honestly, it's not going to really matter. I might only be able to get 4 in there. We'll see. Oh, I think I can start. I think I can still fit another one in there. Yeah, we're just going to kind of roll that one in so that it retains all the filling. Oh, now we're onto the ones that were already problems to begin with. These may split a lot more. That's over full. because we're already structurally compromised. Alrighty. This requires a fair amount of concentration. Oh, that one split. And this is number 8. Yeah, I'm going to need to probably get a couple more. We're going to have leftovers, but that's okay. It's 9. I mean, really, when has leftover Mexican food ever been a problem? Well, this is actually probably a little more Tex-Mex than it is actual Mexican food, but it's Mexican adjacent. How's that? And then whoop, that one's definitely splitting. That one's 10, and I think I can fit another 1 or 2 in there, which is good because I've got some more filling for it, and I want to make sure that those ends. Yeah, you know what? Let's not overstuff this. It'll be difficult to get it out if I do. So what we're going to do here is we're going to get some of this enchilada sauce. And we're just going to drizzle it over. Try to make sure it's all covered. And once it is, it's time to hit it with some cheese on top. And then it will be time to pop it in the oven so that it can bake for, I think it's 25 minutes. Man, that's looking good. And we'll just get this last little bit of cheese on here. All right, so we've got that, and we're going to, bake this cover it and bake it. Oh, well, I don't remember it saying covering. Alrighty. Back to our trustworthy aluminum foil. I will try to not burst out into song. With aluminum foil. I tried. I didn't succeed. Alright. And we're going to pop. Whoop, I need to lower that down. Because I had the rack on the top setting from earlier. So we're going to go ahead and just pop this in. And we've got another 25 minutes. So let's set a timer. 25 minutes. All right. And that's kind of where I'm going to leave you for the moment. I was originally thinking about making some cheese sauce, but after seeing how much cheese and everything went into this, I am thinking that for the sake of my arteries, that is a very bad idea. Um, so I am instead going to get this right up against the oven. I don't think that's really a fantastic view, but it is a view. And a view is better than no view. Ooh, I wonder if I can do this. Endless experimentation. Yeah, that's not too bad. I don't have an in-camera or in-oven camera, so this is the next best thing. I don't know how much there really is to see, but at least it is something, I guess. Let's see, is it better if I turn the light on or light off? Actually, that's slightly better. Okay. Who would have thought that that was going to be better? I am honestly kind of surprised. But, um, yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and mute. I'm going to probably try and throw in some music here on the background. And we will revisit this in about 25 minutes. All right, I'll see you then. It's supposed to slowly fade out, but technology, right? All right, let's see if this did what it was supposed to do and if it has successfully baked. Move the camera back here. Oh, that's looking pretty good. Not quite done, but we're going to pull this off so it can toast a little bit on the top. Really close though. And we just dropped, looks like 40 degrees by opening the oven. Yeah, that seems about right. That's why you don't open the oven. Boy, this does not focus at all when there's a light on behind it, does it? All you can see is a mirror. All right, I'm gonna put this on here and I'm gonna clean up a little bit while I finish waiting the next, oh, I don't know, say 2 or 3 minutes, I think. I set a timer for, I think, 2 minutes and 30 seconds seems about right to me.